Very good morning to all of you. Hope you all are doing good. Okay, so communication. Now, till today, we have completed all different types of communication. Then we have also discussed about why communication is important and how communication is different from business communication. Those all things we have discussed. Now, today we are going to start with a new thing that is one of the most important things due to which people are unable to communicate the right message and get the right feedback. If you want to go to anywhere, we need to select the right mode of transportation, right? The right mode of transportation, as in, if we want to go to a village where there is no airport, can we go for a flight to reach there? No, we'll have to go with the road, or else if train facility is there, we'll go with the railways. But if railways is not there, flights are not there, we need to select the right mode of transportation. Like right mode of transportation here will be the road transport. Now you can go with public transport, you can go with private one, but you'll have to go with road transport. Same way, when we are communicating the message, when we are passing on the message from one person to another, we need to check the channel of communication that we read. But in that channel of communication, there are a lot of barriers. Now here selecting the mode of transport, what were the barriers? The airport was not present, the rail track was not present. Those acted as a barrier and we had to change the mode of communication. Mode of transportation. Same way in communication, there's one thing which is known as barriers of communication. Now, what are those? In this picture, can you see a wall? A wall where two different individuals are trying to talk to each other. So this wall is acting as a barrier to effective communication. Because we have already learned in previous classes that communication is not only about speaking, it is also about seeing, understanding by the use of body language, by the use of gestures, eye contact. All these things help us to understand the message which other person is trying to deliver. So there are some things which act as a barrier to effective communication. Now, if we just talk about in general, what do you think? What are the barriers for effective communication? What can be the barriers for effective communication? What can be the barrier? Maybe there is difference in language, like both the people are not aware about the same language. That is, language barrier can be linguistic, which is also known as linguistic. So it can be language barrier. Then loud sound. Okay, sound can be another barrier. Then what about distractions? The distraction from the outside sources, which we keep on getting and we are unable to understand the right message. It can be distraction. Physical barriers. There can be some physical barriers, perpetual barriers, some emotional barriers. Then cultural difference is again one of the barrier which act to effective communication. Gender barrier, and interpersonal or intrapersonal barrier. So these are some of the barriers to effective communication, and we are going to study about all these barriers one by one in detail. So today we are going to start with the first barrier, that is linguistic barrier. Now, what is linguistic barrier? The word is new, but if I'll tell you the other word, that is language barrier. So that makes it very clear that the difference of word, difference of language, pronunciation, all these things act as a linguistic barrier. Now there is a person with whom I'm communicating. He doesn't know English. We both are comfortable in Hindi. I know Hindi, and he also can understand and speak and write Hindi. But for me, as I am into an organization where we prefer dealing with the client only in English, I started communicating with that person in English. The results were he didn't understood anything. The message was partially delivered because as per his understanding, whatever he could grab, he took that thing, and rest part of the message was left without giving any meaning to the receiver. So was that a good idea? If there is a requirement, we should have this flexibility of going with other language also, because the ultimate goal, the ultimate motive of sharing the information is that the receiver should understand what we are trying to communicate. So before communicating, make sure you know in which language the receiver is comfortable. Now you might say that, ma'am, if the receiver is comfortable in speaking French, or he's comfortable in speaking any other language like Kannada. So we don't know that language. Both of us are different. So in that case, we have so many people who are into the profession where they act as a translator. They listen to you, they convert that message into the other person's language, and they again convert the same message to your language. So you can go for those kind of people if you think that this language barrier can be one of the reasons of other person not understanding our message. Let's see what is linguistic barrier. Barriers arising due to difference in languages, words, meanings, or pronunciation can create confusion among the people. So this is simply saying that the barriers, those stoppage, the problems which are arising due to difference in language. The language is different, the words are different, the meaning and the pronunciation is very different. The other person is unable to understand what you are trying to speak. So that act as a barrier to communication. So this linguistic means related to language. All the things related to language comes under linguistic barrier. I'll again read the definition that says, barriers arising due to difference in language, words, meaning, or pronunciation can create confusion among the people. And this linguistic means related to language. So any barrier which is arising due to difference in language, words, meanings, pronunciation is known as linguistic barrier, which is also known as language barrier. Yeah, this is one of the greatest problems in the organization when people from different geographical location are working together, or you are client facing person and you have to deal with people from different geographical location. There it becomes really very important to consider this linguistic barrier. Many times the message is very good. The other person is ready to enter into a contract or to deal with you, but he doesn't get you right. He doesn't understand the right meaning, right message, and lending both of you into lose-lose situation where neither he nor you will be working together. Though your area of interest was same, you could have gained lot of growth if you would have worked together, but just because of this you couldn't enter into a contract. Another point says the fact that each major religion has its own language is one of the barriers to effective communication. In the organization where we were discussing about informal way of communication, there, people usually prefer communicating with in their own language, or in general also, language is something. If we are speaking Hindi at home, that is our mother tongue. No matter how fluent you have become with English, somewhere those words are going to be the part of your conversation. Even bringing one or two words during the conversation, during the communication, can change the entire meaning, because that one or two words maybe the other person did get you. So in this, it says that every region, every major region has its own language, and that act as one of the barrier to effective communication. In the organization where we have hundreds, thousands of employees working together, they all belong from different region, right? They all doesn't belong from one specific region. Say all of them are from Karnataka, where everyone is familiar with using Kannada. No, they all belong from different region. They all speak their own different languages. So it becomes really very difficult at times to make them communicate in one common language. Maybe, recently we just faced one of the very biggest problem in my previous organization where I was working. I was being assigned to train some of the teachers related to a program. And to my bad luck, I was having three teachers who were not comfortable either with English or with Hindi. And the third language in which they were comfortable was Kannada, and I didn't knew that language. But yes, to my good luck, they were comfortable in understanding. They couldn't speak English, but they could read and understand. So that worked for me. I used a written mode of communication to make them understand the project, to make them understand what role they will be playing and what they have to do. So this barrier, with my understanding, I just didn't allow this barrier to just disturb my message, to make my message incomplete. But that doesn't work everywhere. You will come across many people who cannot write, read, understand a specific language. For me, if you will tell Kannada, I cannot read, I cannot write, and I cannot speak Kannada. If a person who is familiar with only Kannada, I and that person cannot communicate until and unless we don't have a language translator in between us. So if required, if you see that there are people from different regions and we have to deal, our business is client facing and we have to deal with a lot of different people from different regions, it's good to have a language translator in the organization that is going to save you from this barrier for effective communication. Next point says, sometimes even a thick dialect may render the communication ineffective. What is a thick dialect? What is a thick dialect? Have you ever heard this word dialect? That means any particular specific form of language which belongs from a specific group, specific region, and we are using that language. Sometimes even a thick dialect may render the communication ineffective. Even in the same workplace, different employees will have different linguistic skills. As I told you, in an organization, more than 100 people, hundreds of people, or maybe let's take the smaller number. If 50% people are working together, they all will belong from different linguistic skill. They'll have different linguistic skill. They'll have their own different languages. So now how to manage that? How to go about that? It is a challenge. And how to make them communicate with each other, that is again a challenge. So, nowadays we have a lot of technology. We can convert our English sentence into Kannada or into any other language. So either when we are going with the written form, when we are communicating in the written form, you can go for any of these. You can go with any of the software where you are converting the message into the language in which the other person is comfortable, and you can further pursue that. But If this is oral interaction, then you just have one option left, that go for language translator, hire those persons and let them communicate your message or the other person's message effectively with each other. Thus, keeping this barrier in mind, different considerations have to be made for different employees. Now, when you are circulating the information, that time also you'll have to consider like which mode of communication and which language should be used so that each and every person in the workplace gets the right meaning of the message. Because when when we are communicating some rules and policies, or we are communicating about some really very important information, like an organization is going to go through merger, that information is very important for each and every employee working in your organization. So make sure you are considering such a way of communication where your message reaches the person in the exact form from where it originally started. There is no error, no barrier which is affecting your message. So thus, keep in mind these barriers and consider the difference of language and then communicate with your employees. Now, let's take some examples of linguistic barriers. That is, a person who does not understand the native language or even foreign language cannot communicate well. So a person who is not familiar with native language, a person who is not familiar with any of the foreign language, definitely he will struggle to communicate. He will face lots and lots of problem while communicating, because the language which he know, other person might not know, and he might not respond properly. Same way, how the other person is communicating, which language the other person is using, this person may not know, and there this barrier will come as a barrier to effective communication. Words with similar pronunciation but different meanings. That is again one of the reasons that there are many words which are pronounced same but carries different meaning. Have you ever come across these words? That they are pronouncing same but they are carrying different meanings. So we can say that add. If we say AD, the pronunciation is same. One word is AD and second word is ADD. Okay, let me just quickly open my whiteboard. Okay, see, we have two words. One is AD. AD is stored for advertisement, the short form of advertisement, ad. Second is ADD. ADD. See, we have two words. One is AD and second is ADD. Both the words are having same pronunciation, that is add, but the meaning is entirely different. Can you tell me some other words? Two different spellings, two different words, two different meanings, but pronunciation remains same. That is I. I is for ourselves also, I is for I, by which we are seeing that also. So there are two different words, but having the same pronunciation. Next, flu. Again, two different meanings, two different words, two different spellings, but pronunciation remains same. Flu. R. Same. Male. So when we are using these words in our conversation, don't you think it becomes really difficult to understand what exactly the other person is saying? I see. I'm using the two words I see. Now, what I'm trying to say, my eyes see or I see. So these words having same meaning, same pronunciation, but different meaning can cause lot of miscommunication, can act as a barrier to communication. Other word example is pain, P-A-I-N, pain, P-A-N-E, pain, plane, plane. So we are having same pronunciation with different words, and it's not just one or two. There is a long list of such words. Like if we talk about the list, we can also, yeah, one second. Yeah, we can also say accept, fair, counsel, real, tail, tail, vain, walk. So there are so many words which carry the same pronunciation but are completely different. They carry complete different meaning from each other. So here this simply says that words with similar pronunciation but different meaning, like these words, again act as a barrier to communication. Language barrier. So first was the language. We are not aware about the same language. The language which we understand and which other person speak and understand is different. So there is entire different language. Like it can be one knows English and Kannada, second knows Hindi and Marathi. So there is no combination. Both of them cannot communicate. Second thing which act as a barrier is the words which have, so these are homophones. These words are known as homophones, which have the same meaning, but same pronunciation, but different meanings, like EXCEPT. This is also accept, and one is ACCEPT. That is also accept, but the meaning is very different for both the words. So these again act as a barrier to effective communication, which comes under linguistic barrier. Jargon words, technical words used by professionals such as engineers, doctors, or any other word. So there are few words which are specifically used by technical persons. So that can be the words used by the doctors, the words used by the engineers, the specific professional persons. That again lead to barrier of effective communication. So when you are communicating, try not to use these technical words, jargon words, which are not easily understandable by other person. Next is bypass instructions. Means many times shortcuts are used while passing the message. Example, a manager ordered the newly appointed secretary to go and burn the CD. She literally burned it. He meant to copy the CD. The burn here, the word burn the CD here meant that you go and copy the CD somewhere else also, but this word was not familiar with the secretary and she simply went and put that CD on fire. This means when you're passing the instruction, make sure the words you are saying, either the person knows those words or use the words which are familiar. Like you could have also said, go and copy that CD in this drive. So many times it happens that we pass on the information to other person and he or she is unable to get the right and exact meaning. And the message entirely changes. So this is one of the example, like ordering to burn the CD. Burn here was meant to copy the CD and the secretary actually burned that. Now let's take one more example, that is see CS. What is CS? CS stands for computer science also, and CS stands for company secretary also, right? There are two different words, two full forms of CS. So person saying, hello, I am CS. What is CS? Are you, you have done something in computer science, or you are a company secretary. So here make sure that whenever required, then only use the shortcuts or else use the full forms to avoid any kind of barrier while passing on the information. So there are four different examples which we have taken. One is the complete difference in the language. Second is the pronunciation, the homophones, where the words are pronounced similar but carries different meanings. Next is the jargon words, that is the technical words which are being used specifically either by the engineers or the doctors. And the last is when passing the information, the bypassed instruction that can create misunderstanding amongst the people and the members. Next, what are the issues with language barrier? What are the issues? What do you think? What are the issues with the language barriers? What do you think? What are the issues? Stunts growth of individual. What do you mean by stunts growth of individual? How it is affecting your growth? How this language barrier affects your growth? Does it really affect your growth? Yes. This language barrier affects the growth of the people. It stunts the growth of the individual. Stifles information. It changes the information. Stifles means? What is the meaning of stifled information? That means the right meaning that is not being communicated properly. Hinders relationship. Yes, it also has a bad impact on the relationship with the peer or with other person, and frustrations. Frustration comes out because now we are trying to make you understand something and you are not getting that meaning. You're not understanding that thing. So people will get frustrated. So these are the issues which are usually associated with the language barriers, and you have to overcome these issues. Now, overcoming language barrier, what are the ways by which you can overcome this language barrier? Use plain language. Always use a language which is plain, not having jargon words, not having short forms. Try avoiding the words which carries the same pronunciation and which can change your message. Use the language in which both the person who are the part of conversation are comfortable in reading, writing, and understanding. Use that language and have the words which are easily understandable, like this burn, which was having two meanings. One was literally burning the thing with the fire, or second was copying that thing on some other location. So avoid using such kind of things. No, you cannot assume that all the people are going to be familiar with such terms. Maybe there are people who have never came across these type of abbreviations, these types of words. So it's always better that when you are communicating to a person, use a plain language. If you are using this language, still make yourself clear, so that next time when you will use this language, the other person is familiar with that language, that yes, what exactly this word means. Find a reliable translation service. As I discussed with you in the first session, that there are many different translators. There are many different people who are into translation service. There are many companies who are providing this. So you can outsource a translation service. You can Hire a translation professional for your organization who is comfortable in knowing many languages and who can make your conversation, communication, information pass on from one person to other person smoothly. Because when you will have the translator, you won't find it difficult. You can use your language and he can convert that message into the other person's known language. So for this is not a really challenging task. You can hire it, you can outsource this thing, you can hire a professional in your organization also. There are many people who are into translator job and they can be a very helping hand for you. Enlist interpreters, need to enlist all the interpreters, provide classes for your employees. To start providing these classes where you are making them familiar with some technical words, some words which you frequently use while passing on the information. So you need to conduct those classes. You need to provide them the training so that all of the employees are on the same platform as in all of the employees understands the same language and they understand the words, the jargons which you keep on using in your communication. So to make them familiar with all these words, it's important that you conduct some classes, some sessions for them where you are providing them the information about this. Use visual method of communication. So in case you think that yes, the other person knows that language, but he or she might not be very much familiar with that language, you can go with visual method of communication. So at times, if the person don't understand the thing, he can relate that thing with what he is saying and he can get the right and the exact message from the communication, from the conversation which is going on. Visual things, visual aids, presentations, all these things act as a very strong mode of communication. You know, at times it happens that we may forget what enters our ears, but we usually don't forget what we see. It's where there are some projects in which the visual method of communication is only acceptable. Like, see, this is the visual presentation which I'm giving, but if I just don't use this presentation, if I keep on speaking, you know, it will be really very difficult to understand for you what I am speaking. But when you can see the things, and now when I'm explaining them one by one, that makes it very easy for you to understand the things, right? That makes it easy for you to relate the things what I'm speaking and what you can see on screen. Same way, you can go with visual method of communication to overcome this language or linguistic barriers. When we are showing growth ratio, when we are showing the future ratio, like where we stand and where we are going to reach, they're using the pictorial presentation, like visual presentation, showing the graphs, showing the past trend, showing where we stand today, doing the comparison. All these visual method of communication helps you to make your information, to make your message more clear into the for the other person who is listening and who is trying to understand your message completely. So use visual method of communication to overcome this language or linguistic barrier. Use repetition. You might have observed that whenever I speak some important points, I keep on repeating that point. Like in initial phase, when I was talking about the language barrier, the very first line, I kept on repeating. Because when you keep on repeating, the other person doesn't get any chance of missing any of the specific word. So this repetition of message can help you to make an everlasting impact, to pass on the information to the other person correctly and appropriately. So these use of repetition again act as a very strong way by which you can communicate with other person. Be respectful. When you are communicating, when you are passing on the information from one person to another, make sure you are being respectful. You are showing respect for the other person with whom you are communicating. Even if you are a manager and you're communicating the information to the subordinate, make sure you're respecting. You are not speaking in such a way that looks to be rude, that looks to be loud, that looks to be insulting. No matter what position you and the other person are holding, each person has their own self-respect. And every person in the organization deserve respect. Respect is something which if you are going to give, you will get it back. So to overcome the language barrier, being respectful is again very important to avoid this barrier to communication. Now, what all points we have learned, we are quickly going to see those. So to overcome language barrier, the first we discussed was use plain language. Make your information, make your message very using plain, simple words, simple language, which is easily understandable by all the persons. Find a reliable translation service. If you think that your work is something where you have to deal with person from different geographical location, from different backgrounds, from different region, so it's better to appoint a translator or to outsource this translation service so that whenever required, you have this person available with you. Enlist interpreters, provide classes for your employees, train them for the words which you frequently use, the abbreviation, the full forms. It's better to train them so that they keep those things in mind, and when you are using those things in the communication, they are aware about what exactly you are trying to speak. So make sure you provide these classes. Like for example, if we conduct meetings on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so we can have that MWF. So what is MWF? We will have meeting every MWF, that is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So when you are providing the classes, when you are training the new hirees, you can tell them that whenever we are going to write MWF for the meeting, that means that we will have the sessions on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If we write MTT, that is Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. If we write TTF or TTS, that means Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. So once you are going to train them, once you are going to tell them, then it will be really easy for all the employees to understand the meaning. Use visual method of communication. That is again very effective and very important if you go with the visual method of communication. Use repetition. If you think that some information is really very important, it's okay if you are going to repeat that information once or twice to make other person understand what you are trying to convey. And be respectful. The last thing, the last important thing which says is be respectful. Show respect to all the people with whom you are communicating, irrespective of the thing which you are, irrespective of the position they hold in the organization or outside the organization. You need to be respectful with each and every person. With this, we have come to the end of the session. Now, in the next session, we will be discussing about the second barrier of communication, that is psychological barrier. But before that, we will see how this linguistic barrier causes problem within the organization for passing on the information. Any doubts still here? Okay. If you don't have doubts, we are good to wind the session. Now we'll have the next session in next 10 minutes. That is MS Office Basics. So please join the session on time.